Right, so I went ahead and added the notes there, and I'll be adding the notes and the recording to the blog post on the website as well. So I'm pretty excited to show you guys the 2103 release, which will be coming out in the next couple of days. Do we have a set day for that yet, Mark? Is it tomorrow or Wednesday?
Probably Wednesday or Thursday.
Wednesday or Thursday, cool. Don't want to rush you. So I wanted to start out by talking about something that's a little down lower here. I want to just start out with the big ones. The web builder updates is pretty cool. Hold on, let me move that. There we go. So the web builder updates, this is pretty simple, but it's something that is really useful for someone like me who's more comfortable with HTML than Markdown. I've gotten more comfortable with Markdown lately, but usually we have the Markdown in the web builders. This is the basic web builder page, and it's automatically set to Markdown, but you can go into system variables and toggle this to use HTML editor rather than Markdown. And then when you are in the web builder, now it's got a little HTML box instead. So you can put that in here. And the next thing that I wanted to talk about is the indexing updates.
Real quick on the, sorry, can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah, no problem.
On the HTML, there are a couple of things to be aware of there. So you can now enter HTML directly in the Markdown. You could before, we just didn't actually like advertise it. And if you go back to the system variables, you can control which HTML tags are available. So if you wanted to do more interesting things like, I mean, right now it contains most of the basics. So you've got divs and spans and paragraphs and all of the formatting. But if you wanted to do like horizontal rules or something, you could add that in as well. And then it's important to realize that this applies to everybody in the consortium and all editors, since there's not really a super easy way to go back and forth. And if you didn't want any HTML at all, so if your users, if you just rather have them use Markdown, you can always check off the allow HTML and Markdown fields, but it's on for now, just to let everybody do it. But and then this applies to all Markdown fields across, so system messages and web builder pages and everything. So
okay, I thought it was just in relation to the web builder pages.
No, it's everything. Everything that was a Markdown field now will handle this. So
awesome.
So system variable or system messages and placards already had HTML, but you can do it all now.
Cool. So I also wanted to go into the indexing updates up here. The most important one of the indexing updates is this image we have here, which you'll see in the ILS indexing page. This is again right here in the ILS integration. In the format information. So this was something that was talked about in the last Aspen gathering, doing this format boost in a none, low, medium, high, very high instead of a numeric range. So it's a little bit clearer to see. There's also some format updates. The format updates are going to be adding new format for Blu-ray DVD combination packs, CD and DVD packs, audiobooks on MP3 CD, PlayStation 2, Vita and 5, Nintendo Switch and DS, and then Xbox Series X. There's also some improved handling for PlayStation titles for abbreviation, checking for Braille titles for 008 position 23, separating music records on vinyl from music records on CD, improved handling for playaway titles to detect them in more cases, and properly handling titles that have multiple 007 fields. Also, when setting up indexing profiles, changing the fields that are visible based on how formats are determined. And then setting up indexing profiles. Sorry, that's the one that I just went over. I've got my agenda over on one side, and then I started looking at the notes on the other side. So also decreasing the interval between indexes for Symphony. That's kind of, I think, the only ILS specific update in this update batch. I'm sorry, there's a chat. Yay, I'm so excited that Montgomery is coming on. I'm excited for you guys to be joining us. So also improving the speed of indexing by not using permissive mark reader unless loading fails with non-permissive loader. And optimizing saving indexing notes. Mark, did you want to talk to anything in the indexing section?
Yeah, so with the formats, that's only gonna, like, that only applies if you're using the kind of default or the method of determining format that's based off the mark record. So there's a few libraries that are doing that. So Swan is doing that. Nashville's doing that. If you're currently using item types or collection codes to determine your format, it won't have any effect at all. But for the people using the kind of default method, it does a lot of good stuff. So, and thank you to Swan for helping with all of that testing and setup and looking through things.
Yeah, I noticed Swan has a lot of great stuff that they've added in this one. I was looking through some of the tickets.
Yep.
And it's really awesome how involved they are. Also, there's the properly suppress overdrive records from Koha when a bookseller of Mark Express is provided. I saw that was a ticket that was on there as well. So I'm going to move down to the grouping updates. This first one is looking at the 245 subfield P, which is something that we discussed in pretty good detail in one of the Aspen gatherings. The update is so that the 245 P is never trimmed from the grouping title, so that records that are part of a series are now grouped differently. So even if they have the same title, if they're in a different series, that's going to ungroup them. I think this is actually going to be helpful for something like comic books, things like that as well, I imagine.
Potentially.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I'm interested to see how this goes. Something that we talked about in the Aspen gathering was just to keep an eye on this. If you see something like this in your library, let us know if it's working, if it's not working. It was something that we kind of just put across the board. And then also using uniform titles when grouping titles for different editions of movies. So there's an example here. I couldn't find a specific example in the Aspen test, but you can kind of see it right here. It's pretty explanatory with the image. So when records are regrouped, force both the original and the new work to be regrouped to ensure the title shows properly, and adding the ability to regroup records from a collection within the indexing profile. So that was a toggle that was added in here. This was added, the regroup all records.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's a little one right there, which could be really useful. And then merge record grouping project into indexing project. Mark, did you want to say something on that as well?
Yeah, it's just kind of an internal change. So we used to have 2 Java projects, one for regrouping and one for indexing. They're combined now, which will let us do some other cool things going forward. So
yay.
Yeah.
Setting it up.
Yep. And then can we jump back up to the grouping with the subfield N, subfield P? So
yeah,
just want to, so it turns out that we always were using subfield N, subfield P. but they were frequently trimmed off. So basically we were looking for things that were part of a series and trimming that name. So like the 1000 series was getting trimmed off. So it is important that those are no longer trimmed off ever, even if they look like things we would typically trim off. So there may be some cataloging that needs to happen there. If you don't want those, so you could move them to a subtitle or something. So if you do want those to be considered for trimming, you could move the like 1000 series and 900 series into subfield B instead of subfield N and subfield P. But it does give you a lot more control. And then the uniform titles, the big thing that this does is a lot of the uniform titles do include like the year of release. So there is more cataloging work potentially. The other thing that we're still looking at and may change between now and the release is we might wind up showing the uniform title, at least within search results. So like the uniform title would be A Star is Born, what do they call it? Motion Picture 2019 or 2018 or whenever that one was released. And then Motion Picture 1970 or whatever year that was, just to make it a little more obvious to people what the differences were.
Cool. This next one, the searching update, this was the format facets. I always want to say faucet, like Farrah Fawcett. But selecting multiple format facets now does or searching instead of and searching. That was something that I think was brought up in the Aspen gathering as well. There's also some security updates that have been added, and I believe we have Swan to thank for some of these as well. Creating a new user to run Aspen indexing code and a group for the web server. Automatically generating a secure passkey file with random information for encryption. Was that something that you and James were talking about in the Aspen gathering also, or was that just
No.
Swan specific?
Yeah, I don't think, well, it applies to everybody. It's something that we've talked about for a while, but
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, and then automatically encrypting the PIN within the user table. Went over the web builder update right there at the beginning. And then these other updates, a lot of these are bugs. So there's removing duplicate title information when showing mark records, changing the search box from a text area to an input area. So this was actually something that's not a bug. It's just instead of it, being a box that you can readjust the size, now it's just a input box and there's no way to accidentally readjust that. There is also updating Cloud Library integration to handle patron barcodes with spaces in them, updating the display of browse categories so lists can be shown within the browse category. I was actually going to show you guys that. Right now, I think there's a little broken image on this one, but this is a list. So you can make a browse category with lists. That's really cool. And fix, so grid mode works again while browsing the catalog. That's again here in the grid. So, oops, I'm still in the list. Sorry about that. So now grid mode is working. And update masquerade to stop checking account profiles as soon as a matching user is found. There was kind of a bug going with that as well. Correct filtering of material request page for formats and assignee. Fix so that links shown in the menu bar without a drop-down menu respect the open in new tab setting. That's going to be these here at the top. Sorry about the quick scroll. Provide additional padding around the show edition button. So that is in, let's see, in here, there's just a little extra added padding here. And this is useful for if you've been personalizing the theme a little bit. Sometimes if you were using a different color for the outside, it would affect the buttons next to it. So that has been fixed and updated. And then updates for PayPal integration to pass order ID. When changing page size, make sure to reset the user to the first page. This was for, that's not right. I don't have the tab pulled up. But that's going to be the multiple pages that was added in the last update at the bottom of a page. And then when navigating through search results, properly handle cases where a record has no title when showing next and previous links at the top near the breadcrumbs. And then when Koha max reserves is set to default, substitute the default value of 50. Wrap spelling suggestion button. So that is this one here. So in the spelling suggestions, didn't find what you want. Now these buttons are wrapped a little bit better. That's an interesting spelling suggestion, but we'll go with it. And then fixed display of who submitted a review. So this one is, I think I did it on this one. Instead of, I think before it was just saying bye and then blank on March 1st. So that's been fixed and dated as well. And then Mark, if you wanted to talk to any of those, also there is an update still in progress that I wanted to have Mark talk about as well. And that's changing how holds and checkouts are loaded internally when there's lots of holds and checkouts.
Yeah. So when, in this case, we're working on a patron with like 90 checkouts or lots and lots of holds, pulling that information from the ILS can take a really long time. And we pull it every time the page is refreshed. So we're looking to make an update that will cache that information and only load it. We're looking at probably an interval between 5 and 15 minutes, just so that a patron doesn't have to constantly watch for that to refresh. That will affect all users. So it's going to affect every ILS. It's going to affect all the e-content sources and potentially apps. So doing some testing with the APIs as well. But it's going to store all of the information in the database so that we can retrieve that information as quickly as possible, because we're seeing just the ILS takes a really long time to return it. So it can take 20 seconds for some of these ILSs to pull that many holds for us or to display that many holds to us. That is the last big thing that's going to go into this release. Coding on it's going well so far, but that'll kind of determine the release date. So we're looking at a release date of either Wednesday or Thursday, depending on how long that all takes to get coded. Yeah, and that'll actually allow some really cool things in the future. So we'll be able to do more with like showing within search results or a full record view that you have this already checked out or it's already on hold. So there should be some really cool things that we can do because we have more ready access to that information. So
Nice.
yeah, it should be really nice.
Cool. Was there anything that I kind of went over quickly that somebody wanted to jump back to? Mark, was there anything else that you kind of wanted to touch on that I skipped over a little quickly?
No, I think that'll cover
Cool.
it.
Mark, just really quick, going back to the checkouts and holds caching.
Yeah.
So you said it would refresh maybe every 5 to 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So if a patron were to be in the catalog and place a hold and then go back to their My Account, would that be reflected immediately?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, every 5 to 15 minutes, unless we know that there is a change that we need to refresh based off of. And then we'll probably be adding a refresh button just so that if they knew that they had just checked things out on the self-check and wanted to verify that they were there on their phone or something, they could click a refresh button to see that they're there immediately. So
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. it's a little bit of a complicated bit of coding, but it should be good long term. So.
Well, thanks for doing that for us. Yay. Well, if nobody had any other questions, excuse me, we can go ahead and wrap up a little bit early. I'm excited to see what you guys think of this. I'm excited to see it get put out. I'll go ahead and add this video and the agenda notes to a blog post and then share that with everybody in Slack, probably through the listserv as well. Check this chat. Yay, I'm so excited too, Maddie. We're really excited to see you guys. Thanks for dropping in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you all have a great day. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.